when I looked deeper at the name, I noticed something strange. So at first I thought this was just like a weird Louisiana name, but it wasn't just a rare Louisiana name. It was actually a scientific name. What does a tree in Africa have to do with my great-grandmother in Louisiana? I didn't expect to ask that question. After I named my own daughter, I uncovered a forgotten name that reshaped how I see my family. I think about the legacy of family names. Hi, I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. And I have 3 kids, and my middle daughter I named Lola, thinking I was just continuing the simple tradition. But when I found out that my great-grandmother's name was actually something else, I started thinking to myself how much of our identity changes and gets reshaped without us even realizing what happened. I never expected my great-grandmother's name to send me into a research spiral. If you've ever been in a research spiral, you know what that's like. So I was working on my family tree. She was born 1900 in Campty, Louisiana. Now, my family called her Louise growing up, which was not her name. My grandmother told me that her name was really Lola, but when I was looking at her census records, I saw a totally crazy name that I didn't know how to pronounce. I think it's pronounced Lodosia. I'm going to put it on the screen. But something about it made me pause because it didn't feel like a typical family name. It was weird. I'd never heard anyone say the name out loud. It wasn't a unique name to just her. So that name showed up somewhere else. Her dad's mom had that name as well. Her name was Marie Ladoisia, and her last name is Lamel, which is big name down in the Louisiana Creole community. So my great-grandmother's name came from her grandmother. So it wasn't just like a random name, it was a family name. So I'm like, okay, this name has some importance, but why is it so weird? Why is it so weird? The name wasn't really ever spelled the right way. The census kind of has it listed all over the place. But I started Googling the name because I was like, I really don't understand this name. Like, I don't recognize it. I've never seen this before anywhere else. And what I found, I didn't expect at all and made the whole thing a little bit weirder. Now, for a long time, census takers didn't ask how you spelled your name, right? They just wrote what they heard or what they assumed was correct. And so, like, if you were considered a Black woman or a Creole woman in 19th century Louisiana, 20th century Louisiana, it's not like you had editorial control over your own paperwork, right? It's like someone says the name, they just write down what they think it is. Also, there's the language. There's the French happening, and then my family spoke Creole, and then there's English, and so a name may take different forms. This wasn't just about spelling. But before I tell you the weird thing I found out about her name, I just want to say, why does this matter? Because names aren't just labels. They reflect who's listening, who got to speak, and what was deemed acceptable. And so when you trace a name like Ladoisia, I don't know, you're really tracing how people navigated surviving through systems that didn't really see them clearly. So there's a bigger pattern here. How names got simplified, maybe eventually anglicized, made more acceptable in different cultural contexts. That's how my great-grandmother ended up going by the name Louise. But once I realized that, I started to see something deeper happening. I came across the word Laodicea, and my whole understanding shifted. So at first I thought this was just like a weird Louisiana name, but it wasn't just a rare Louisiana name. It was actually a scientific name for a tree, but not just any tree. Laodicea maldivica is the scientific name for the coco de mer, which is a massive palm tree that grows only in the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean on the east coast of Africa. So this tree produces the largest seed in the plant kingdom. It's rare, it's protected, and it's only found in one place on Earth. It's this dry forest on this island. Before the 1700s, no one actually knew where these nuts came from. They would wash up on distant beaches, and people believed they even grew underwater on trees at the bottom of the ocean because you would only find them kind of coming out from the deep blue sea, washing up on shore. So that's where the name came from, coco de mer, coconut of the sea. But the name Laodicea itself was created in honor of King Louis XV, and then it was Latinized and became the genus name. So when I saw the name of that seed, and it was like pretty close. It is the closest I've ever seen to that name. I immediately looked for a connection. And I really don't think it was a coincidence. So there's no direct evidence that my ancestor, my great grandmother, was named after a tree. But the name clearly traveled through European science, colonial trade, African migration, Creole naming traditions. And in that swirl, names like Laodicea could easily find their way into the family naming patterns, especially in regions with strong French influence, strong African influence, like Louisiana. But then there's the tree itself, which I thought was the most beautiful metaphor for this whole thing. The coco de mer dominates its ecosystem. Its giant leaves trap almost all the rainfall and just funnel it directly down its own trunk, and it just starves other plants of water in the area. And its seeds don't normally travel far. They germinate close to the mother tree. And nobody knows for sure how the tree is even pollinated. They don't know. Wind, is it insects? Is it geckos eating the fruit and dropping seeds? But there's something kind of poetic about that. It's a name that doesn't scatter far, a family that holds on to it through spelling errors, mispronunciations, simplifications. Laodicea stayed close. So, at first, when I was researching this story, I was just trying to understand my great grandmother's weird name. But now I'm looking at it as a story about how names in our family, in your family, carry our history. This isn't the loud kind of history. This is so quiet, it's almost a whisper. It's the kind that sits in the margins of a document and shows up maybe in someone's middle name that no one really talks about, or maybe just gets shortened for convenience. A name like Laodicea isn't just a label, it's a link. It's connected to botany, to colonial language, to African ancestry, the Creole identity, and how all of that shaped families like mine who are navigating systems that weren't designed for them. Remember, those seeds don't scatter to germinate. They grow near the base of the mother tree. And I think just like the name, it somehow stayed rooted in my family line even when it stopped being said out loud. And I think what's even more interesting is that this line that used the name, so my great grandmother had the name, her grandmother had the name. This is the family that I've been the most easily able to trace back directly to Africa, making the possibility of this name traveling from Africa to Louisiana very likely. And that's the value here. Once you start looking at names in your family closely, you start to see your family differently, I think. You may just start asking new questions, deeper questions. So maybe there's a name like Laodicea in your family tree. One that keeps showing up with different spellings, one that doesn't quite fit the mold, it doesn't show up on like a babynames.com website. Please look closer at it. That name might be holding more than you think. So here's my question for you. Let me know the most unusual name in your family tree. Drop it in the comments and let's see if people can help figure out what the story might be. And I think if this video made you think differently about your own family story, or if you'd like to join me on researching family story and American identity, please hit subscribe. Sometimes just saying the name again, clearly and fully, is enough to bring a piece of history back into view. If you'd like to connect with me off of YouTube and watch videos ad-free, ask me questions that I'll definitely see, please join me over at Patreon at patreon.com/NYTN. Otherwise, we'll talk soon.